Have you ever felt like you're chasing something, but it never really satisfies you? What if I told you that an ancient love poem might just hold the secret to a fulfillment that actually lasts? Today, we're going to dive into a really unique interpretation of the Song of Songs, one of the most mysterious books in the Bible, to see what it has to say about our deepest longings.
You know, this search for meaning? It's not a new thing at all. Thousands of years ago, the writer of Ecclesiastes came to this exact conclusion, that all the striving for wealth or success or even wisdom, on its own, it just feels empty, kind of like chasing the wind. It's a feeling I think we can all relate to at some point in our lives, right?
And that kind of begs the question, doesn't it? If all the things the world tells us will make us happy ultimately fall short, where do we turn? Well, this ancient poem suggests the answer isn't found in a thing at all, but in a relationship.
To really get this, we're going to follow the journey of a young woman. Now, in this allegorical reading, she represents the human soul, and she is just desperately thirsty for something more than what her world can possibly offer.
The poem kicks off with this incredibly bold and personal request. I mean, think about it. She isn't asking for victory in battle or a good harvest or for stuff. She's asking for intimacy. She wants a direct personal connection with the one she loves, who, in this interpretation, represents God. So this kiss is seen as something way deeper than just a feeling. It's not about a temporary, warm, fuzzy emotion you might get during a worship service. No, it's a desire for the very words from God's mouth, for stable, life-giving truth found in Scripture. She wants something real, something that sticks around.
And then the poem lays out this powerful contrast. The young woman declares, "Your love is better than wine." Now, in this context, wine symbolizes the absolute best the world has to offer. Pleasure, success, status, the whole shebang. And while that might be great for a moment, it eventually runs out. But the love she's seeking, it's like a spring of living water. It's an eternal source of satisfaction that will never, ever leave you empty.
Okay, so what is it that sparks this intense desire? What is it about this divine love that is so utterly compelling? Well, the next part of her journey reveals the source of this powerful attraction.
The poem says his name is like fragrant ointment. And that's such a beautiful metaphor, isn't it? It points to the very character of God. It's not a set of rules that's drawing her in. It's the irresistible fragrance of his love, his humility, and his holiness. It's this character that attracts the soul and just makes it want to get closer.
And it gets even deeper when you look at that phrase, poured out. This is seen as a direct reference to the sacrifice of Christ. Just as fragrant perfume is poured from a jar, his life was poured out on the cross. And this ultimate act of love is the most powerful and beautiful fragrance of all, drawing people to him.
So how does she respond to this beautiful scent? Well, she's not just sitting there passively. She cries out, "Draw me." She knows she can't get there on her own steam. And get this, when she is drawn, she doesn't just walk. The text says she and others run. It's this enthusiastic, energetic, all-in pursuit.
You know, this really shows us there are two completely different ways to approach a spiritual life. The first is what's called a ministry of law. You're striving to follow rules out of duty or fear. It's like doing your chores because you're afraid of being grounded. But the other way is a ministry of grace, where you're so captivated by God's beauty and love that you can't help but run towards him. One is a chore, the other is a joyful, natural response. And her prayer is answered. The poem says, "The king has brought me into his chambers." This is it. This is the climax of her pursuit, a moment of deep, personal communion, where she starts to see everything with a brand new clarity. And it's in this intimate space that, bam, she has three profound revelations. One about herself, one about her work, and one about her relationship with God. And these are really the core takeaways from her whole experience. So, revelation number one. It's this powerful paradox about her own identity. In the king's presence, she sees herself clearly for the very first time, and she declares, "I am black but comely," or in more modern language, "I am dark but beautiful." So how can she be both at the same time? Well, she compares her darkness to the rough, weathered tents of Kedar, symbolizing her flaws and her sin. But at the exact same moment, she sees her beauty, like the magnificent, shining curtains of Solomon's temple. In God's presence, she doesn't deny her flaws, but she also fully accepts her new, beautiful identity in him. She holds both truths at once. All right, revelation number two, and this one's a tough one. It's a painful confession. She realizes
that while she's been so busy taking care of everyone else's responsibilities, she has completely neglected her own.
I mean, doesn't this sound familiar? This is the classic trap of spiritual burnout. The vineyards here represent her work and ministry. She was so busy doing good things for other people, keeping their vineyards, that she neglected the most important vineyard of all, her own personal, intimate relationship with God. She was just exhausted and spiritually dry.
And that brings us to her third and final revelation, which comes in the form of a question. She looks at her life and asks, "Why have I been living like a veiled woman, kind of hiding on the sidelines, instead of engaging with the shepherd himself?" So what's this veiled woman all about? It basically symbolizes someone living on secondhand faith. She's been following the companions, other believers, instead of following the shepherd directly. The veil represents her shame, her distance, and her sad realization that she's been content to experience God through other people, instead of pursuing that connection for herself.
Okay, so she's had these 3 huge, life-changing insights. Now what? Where does she possibly go from here? Well, the poem gives her and us some really clear and simple guidance. The shepherd's response to her confusion is so gentle and practical. He doesn't give her some complicated 10-step plan. He simply tells her to find and follow the path that other faithful believers have already walked. So let's break that down. It's basically 3 simple actions. First, find the footsteps, the examples of people throughout history who have lived lives of deep devotion. Second, follow their path. Learn from their example of how to build that direct relationship with God. And third, find your place in that community and let it guide and strengthen you on your own journey. And that, of course, brings us right back to you. This ancient poem isn't just a beautiful story. It's an invitation to look at our own lives. It asks a really simple but incredibly profound question. In your search for fulfillment, whose footprints are you following?